logistics and supply chain, or procurement and supply chain, we're hoping you are, then you are in exactly the right place. We are very keen to hear from you. This is going to be an interactive session, and if you're joining us live, we're going to be no more than 1 hour. And if you're watching the recording, you missed an amazing opportunity to ask live questions of the live sessions. We are very keen to carry on the conversations with you if you are watching the recordings. Those of you live, please come back to us in the Zoom text chat with questions, challenges, comments, observations, any of the above. That's pretty much how Cranfield work here. And the reason we want you to do that is because we have two course directors, or a course director and a deputy director, who know everything about the procurement and the logistics and supply chain program. So your chance to ask pretty much any question at any time. We're not going to use audio, just text chat questions today. We know that you have a choice of where you can study, and that you've done your homework on Cranfield. We know that. But let's just remind ourselves, firstly, before we go any further, what an amazing place Cranfield is. That music gets me every time. I get all excited when I see that, and it makes me proud to work at somewhere that does all of those things. We are in the presence of greatness.
Well, thank you, Toby.
We're joined by Hendrik. Hendrik, senior lecturer and director of the course, director of the supply chain course.
It's two different MSCs that we have.
Go on.
So we have a full-time MSc in logistics and supply chain management, and the MSc in procurement and supply chain management. And I'm honored to be the director for.
And we're honored that you're here talking about it. Any questions at all around anything to do with that program, those topics, even what's taking place in the industry right now, here's your chance to ask the questions. Not only do we have the amazing Hendrik in the studio, we are joined by another academic and 3 students. Dr. Ajay, just give us a wave just to prove that you are real and not AI generated. Can you, Dr.
Yes.
Ajay, can you give us a wave? He's not going to wave to us.
Yes, thanks, Toby. I'm very much real.
You are real. Okay, I'm assuming you are. So you're deputy director of the course as well?
Yes, I'm the deputy director of supply chain management,
Fantastic.
logistic and supply chain management course.
And you're going to tell us a bit about the course projects that we have later on. So thank you for sticking with us. Stay with us. And Manu, give us a wave just to prove that you are real too. There you go. There's a real wave. Manu. So Manu, you were the 2022-2023 cohort. So you know all about the program. Which were you doing, procurement or logistics and supply chain?
So absolutely, yes, correct. So I was in the 22-23 program, and I did the logistics and supply chain management and not the procurement.
Fantastic.
But very, very interestingly, I work in the procurement side at the moment rather than more in the logistics. I mean, it shows how dynamic the supply chain industry and how robust the course is, because you get prepared for both the sides of the coin, not just the logistics bit, but the procurement bit as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun, it's nice, and enjoying the role.
We want to hear more about Northern Marine in Glasgow, but we're going to come back to you. So please stick around. Don't go anywhere. Ajay, how is it? You got 2 Ajays in one session. Ajay, tell us about yourself. Which course are you on? You're a current student, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a current student pursuing full-time logistics supply chain management at Cranfield, and I'm very much real, like Professor Ajay.
Very much real. There's a theme, as you can build a theme going on here. Prajwal, tell me you're real too.
I'm completely real.
They're completely real. You're a current student as well.
Yes, I'm the current student. I'm pursuing full-time procurement and supply chain management here at Cranfield. It's been a very great experience here at Cranfield for me.
You've got to say more about that in a second. This is fantastic. So guys, thank you so much for staying with us. Please stick around, because your chance, if you're interested in procurement or logistics and supply chain, you can ask not only Hendrik and Dr. Ajay, but you can ask current students, what is it like? What's the highlights? What are the lowlights? Not that there are any lowlights, of course. You can ask pretty much any question at any time. Maybe start off in the text chat by telling us where you are in the world for the live audience here. Just tell us where you are in the world. Get us going there. Hendrik, before we go into the details or the structure of the course, you have an interesting background. Tell us about your background.
Well, it's nice that you think that way.
I think so.
Yes. Well, my background, I am originally from Germany. So I studied in Germany. I did sort of a conjoint degree of business and engineering. And I worked in automotive, sort of large American automotive.
Not German automotive,
No.
American automotive.
Well, we also do foreign cars in Germany.
Oh, good. Yeah.
In fact, yeah, some of them have been there for longer than some of the German makes, maybe.
Wow.
You know. So anyhow, and that's sort of my professional background, and I think through my work and experiences in that field, I got more and more interested in the operations, like the internal operations that make products or services. So that's the operations management part. And then, of course, the wider supply chain, like how do all these amazing products and services, how are they being made, how do they come together, and how do they come to us? So then I decided, okay, I want to know more about this. So I stopped my job and actually pursued an MSc in operations and supply chain management, which wasn't at Cranfield. No.
You missed a choice there.
Yes. Well, well, but the interesting bit is I actually got very much connected to Cranfield, even through my time at a different university.
Gosh.
Would you like to know about
Someone tells me you were in New Zealand.
I was in New Zealand, yes. So I did my master's degree in operations and supply chain management in New Zealand at the University of Auckland, and then I did a PhD at the University of Auckland as well.
Looking at what area?
I did on sustainable supply chain management, sort of broad context, but of course the field is still operations and supply chain management, and I was looking into sustainability in supply chain management as a whole.
So you self-identify as a logistician or as an operations manager?
Well,
Not a procurement person by the sound of it.
well, interestingly, I actually worked in a procurement function in automotive. So maybe, coming to Manu's point,
Yeah.
you got to be
Flexible.
Yeah, you have to be flexible, and I think that's what makes supply chain management so interesting, right? Because it has so many different facets to it. And you mentioned just a few, right? Like logistics, you have the procurement, but then within the wider field of supply chain management, you have everything like inventory management, warehousing, the whole sustainability angle. You have internal logistics, you have external logistics, well, sourcing, procurement.
Autonomous vehicles?
Well, yeah, that's all the technologies, of course.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what fascinated me, and basically work in this area and study in this area, and still what fascinates me to this day. And yeah, glad to see new faces every year, coming to join us here to learn more about it as well and join that community of supply chain people, right? So what do I qualify or what do I identify, self-identify? I'm not sure. It's
an academic, maybe, at least.
yeah, well, yes,
But a practitioner?
I like to maintain the practical side of things. I mean, I very much, as I said, I did an engineering degree originally, and sort of worked in an industry that's very much engineering focused as well. So I like to think I have some of this engineering mentality still inside.
You're going to hear a lot more about that, which is the pragmatic and practical focus of Cranfield. That's pretty much what we specialize ourselves in. If you have any questions around what you've just heard, please use the text chat in Zoom and fire them away. And if you're watching the recording and you've gotten this far, congratulations. And we are very keen to carry on the conversation, whether we want to see you at Cranfield. On that point, Hendrik, about the uniqueness of Cranfield, what it is that we do, can you just situate the two programs we're talking about in a context, a wider context?
Okay, so our two programs are they're both full-time programs, first of all, and we sit in the School of Management, of course, but then within the School of Management we have a Center of Logistics, Procurement and Supply Chain Management, and our MSc degree essentially, or those two MSc degrees sit within that center under the whole School of Management and within the Faculty of Business and Management, right? So it's that's where we're at, and we are one of the largest groups, if not the largest group, of logistics, procurement, supply chain, academics, specialists
In the world.
in the world, in Europe for sure,
Right.
in the world. Of course, there are other universities that are also have large groups, but within Europe, the UK, we're probably the largest one.
We're
And-
talking 30 years we've been doing this?
oh, well, longer than that.
Longer.
Yeah. So, I mean, the center I think was originally started in the 70s.
Wow.
So
Before you're on my time.
it's older than me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so and what makes it so interesting, I think, for people who want to come and study here is that we have all these people, essentially, all my colleagues that specialize in different areas. Okay, so I mean, I already mentioned a few of my areas. So I look into operations management, for example. I have a book on operations management, which we use in the classroom as well. I teach warehousing, which is very much a hands-on topic with a lot of technologies that are constantly changing and being updated. So I do that. I teach circular supply chain management, which is connected to my sustainability background and very much a topic close to my heart. But then we have other people. For example, we have AJ, who is here today. So he has a strong focus in maritime logistics and is teaching the freight transport module, which of course covers all the different transport modes that we use in supply chain management. Then we have other people like Farouk Habib, for example. He's the deputy director for our procurement side. He is very much a procurement, sourcing, contract management expert. So that's his area. And and in our MSc, we cover all these topics, and then we get basically the most suited person to teach those modules. And we also bring in external experts to tell us a little bit more about the practical side as
Right.
well.
One of the questions I've got is how do you remain constant and updated and relevant because the industry changes so fast?
Well, it's my job doesn't just entail looking after the full-time MSc. I mean, I do research, I supervise research students, we do consulting projects, we work with external companies, we do customized programs, right? And so through all this work, we basically updating our knowledge base as individuals constantly. And then of course, when you're preparing for, let's say, the new year, I always go through my material and see, well, what has actually changed, right? And bring sort of the newest examples, most relevant aspects into the classroom.
We've talked about us and talked about you. Who do you think is watching? Who do you expect to be watching here? Is it someone who's thinking about supply chain? Someone who's pretty much biting at the bullet and wants to come? Talk who you think the audience is here.
Yes, I think it's going to be a mix. It usually is sort of a mix of people. I'm like talking to them now. So I'm thinking there's going to be people who have a strong background in either transport, logistics, or procurement already, maybe through a bachelor's degree, something like that. Then we're going to have people who maybe have a background in something else. Maybe they studied something business related, or quite often we have a fair amount of engineering focused people with an engineering background. And maybe now they are working in a supply chain management role and sort of got interested in that and are saying, okay, I want to learn a little bit more about this and really have the foundation, you know, to have a full-on career in supply chain management. So I'm expecting that. And then I'm also expecting people who somehow got in touch with supply chain management. Maybe they had one module or one course in their studies, or maybe someone in the family, you know, got them interested in that. And maybe now they're thinking, okay, I've done something else before, but supply chain management could really be
They're intrigued.
They're intrigued and want to know more, and that's why they hopefully here in our webinar.
Is there such a thing as the perfect student? Presumably it's someone who's curious about the topic.
Yes. No, there's no perfect. I mean, no offense. There's no perfect student. There's no perfect professor. You know, I think we all have our own motivations, our own interests, and you already said the right thing. I think it's about being motivated, being curious, wanting to know more, wanting to learn. That's of course what we need here at Cranfield. So people who are just as intrigued by all these supply chain related topics,
It touches us all,
challenges,
doesn't it?
problems.
Every day.
Yeah, I mean that's what interests me so much, you know, like regardless of what you look around here in this studio, well, maybe not you exactly,
Thank you.
but like what we're sitting on these couches, this table
It
here,
was bought.
your computer, all
yeah.
this technology around us, of course, there are intricate supply chains involved
Everywhere.
in making this, you know, and it's not just the products really that we focus on. I mean, I have this beautiful mug
Lovely,
here.
it's beautiful,
So,
it's beautiful.
Beautiful mug. I just got it upstairs from the engineering people, and it does say Save Skies Australia on here. You know, now what do you need to make Save Skies?
Where's
You
that?
know, there's a whole supply chain
Yeah.
behind this, maybe more service related. You know, but how do you create Save Skies somewhere? So there's, I mean, all these questions I find absolutely fascinating. And when you learn more about say the supply chain in particular industry, because nobody knows or has seen all of them.
No.
I always find it fascinating, especially when we have, for example, customized programs with companies, and it's a new sector, a new industry that I haven't really delved deeply into. You know, so we've had programs with, for example, of course, retailers, electronics manufacturers, food and drink manufacturing, or
Pharmaceuticals as
production,
well?
pharmaceuticals. So they're all vastly different. Infrastructure providers, or the rail infrastructure providers, and you can imagine the supply chain for a rail infrastructure provider. They're the things that they need to move in order to keep a rail network going is vastly different to, for example, a dairy production, you know, where you're producing milk and dairy produce, cheese and so forth. But the challenges are different, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Amazing. If you're interested, and we think you are, otherwise you wouldn't still be with us, please put us a question, and we'll do our level best to have that answered. Dr. Ajay, if I can come to you, because you have an extraordinarily interesting background too. Sorry, Hendrik has a great interesting background, but you also have one. Before you talk more about the course and maybe those company projects we mentioned earlier, tell us about your background.
Oh, Dobby, thank you very much for having me here. About my background, initially I'm an engineer. I'm from India. So my background is I did my engineering in way back in 2008 or something. And then I moved to do my MSc in Maritime Logistics and Supply Chain. The interesting story is about that I was very much keen to come to Cranfield, but unfortunately I missed my opportunity to get enrolled into Cranfield because I was late in applying in the Cranfield, and they have told like their admissions are closed. So I was very much disappointed, but somehow I have landed into Heriot-Watt University in Scotland, and I've finished my Maritime Logistics and Supply Chain. After that, I moved to corporate. So I start working in a transport sector in India, especially maritime transport. So I was working in a rail company as well as transport company and the shipping as well. So we were having like a freight forwarding role, and we were controlling everything. So way back in 2018, the interesting incident happened in Indian logistic structure, like in JNPT port, which happens to be India's largest port, container port in the country, which was very much got congested for more than 8 days. And our company have lost a considerable amount in that congestion. So that was the curiosity point for me. Like I wanted to learn more about how exactly the port functions and why there is so much blockade happens regularly outside the port premises. So to understand the port functioning and everything, I enrolled for the PhD in the UN organization, which is the World Maritime University, and I started working into the port logistics sector, port which is very much connected to the inland logistics sector. I finished my PhD in that in 2023. And during that frame, I had the opportunity to work with the UN project, which is a synchro-modality, which is a very much advanced concept in the transportation. And just to brief to our audiences what exactly that works for the policymakers and the government, because every government is now very much concerned about the carbon emission, which is happening by multiple modes of transportation. So to reduce that one and to enhance the communication between the supply chain, especially when it comes to the transport players. So the synchro modality has a new concept is coming into the market. So I worked on that one, and we have very much good opportunity to work with the Swedish government for a very long time. And then I moved to my dream university, which is Cranfield. And I've here come not as a student. So of course I didn't got the opportunity as a student, but I'm very fortunate that I got the opportunity to be a lecturer in this institution.
That's amazing, because you pretty much followed on from what Hendrik said around practicality and industry facing. You come from that area.
Yes. So when it comes to the supply chain, there is always a big discussions about global supply chain. Material is flowing from all the way from Asia to Europe, and then it's going to the North and South America. So the things are moving in such a global scale, and the transport as one of the important sector is hidden. Very few people have known about it. Like only the transport sector, especially the maritime transport sector, had come into the picture when the Suez Canal was blocked. Everybody knows the incident of 2000.
Yeah, was that 2 years ago? When was that?
Yeah, I think it was in 2019 or 20. I don't
okay.
remember the date. But when it was blocked, the global supply chain was standstill for almost 7 to 9 days. And then still many researchers are working what are the replications and how that the one incident, the one ship, when it got blocked, and how exactly the whole global supply chain, not only for the companies, but even for the consumers, get disrupted. So that's the whole thing about it. And that's a good thing about supply chain. It's like this is the only sector now in manufacturing, or you can say in larger perspective, that it's so dynamic. There are so many external factors are acting at the same time. There is an environment, there is a global economy, there is a global geopolitics. So many factors are acting at the same time and getting affected on this sector. So to learn this sector and to understand this sector, it's a great opportunity for the student to move ahead into their careers.
We're going to have you talk to Manu, who's in the Northern Marine Group in Glasgow. So we'll come back to that conversation shortly. There's a question already, and I think both of you have mentioned this. Ajay, you just mentioned it in terms of environment, and you've mentioned it in terms of sustainability. There's a big news asking, do you have a module or a take on sustainability included in the course? Could you say something more about if there's a module on the course around that, or is it spread throughout the entire course?
It's a bit of both, actually. So a few years back, we took the decision that we, of course, want to cover the sustainability topic quite early on and sort of link it to supply chain immediately. So one of the first modules that we take here, or that we start with, and our current students can probably tell us what it's like at the moment. It's called Supply Chain Strategy and Sustainability. So we're making this connection quite early on as part of a core module. But then the second decision that we took is we basically are spreading the sustainability, like this focus across the other modules as well. So for example, AJ, he's teaching the freight transport, and as part of that, he will be talking about sustainability aspects related to freight transport. I teach warehousing, and as part of that, I'm mentioning sustainability related aspects, environmental and social, as they relate and refer to the warehousing side of the supply chain, right? So in this way, we basically have it spread across the entire program. And then we also have electives, which are quite sustainability focused. So for example, I teach the circular supply chain elective. So as the name suggests, it's an elective module. People can elect to take it.
How many do you choose? 1 or 2?
4.
4. You can choose 4.
4 all up, yes.
Okay.
So, and yeah, so the circular supply chain is a popular elective. And yeah, that's of course on circularity, circular economy, and very much with the supply chain focus again. So that's a specific module on sustainability. So I hope that answers.
Yes, the big news. Come back if that didn't answer your question. Please come back. I think it won't just be you interested. I think it'll be a bunch of people interested. I've got to pick up on that marine thing that you mentioned, Ajay, and come to Manu. Manu, can I come to you, because you're a student 22, 23. Tell us a bit more about your background before we talk about marine. We're very keen to talk about that.
So similar to Dr. Ajay, I started with my bachelor's in marine engineering specifically. So from an institution called at BITS in India. So I did my 4 years maritime engineering with them. Then I have worked like as an engineer on board merchant vessels. So I've worked on board like around for 6 years in AP Moller Maersk, so which is again a very big maritime company. So I've worked actually on ships for 5 to 6 years, and then I actually transitioned into procurement. And funnily enough, as Dr. Ajay was saying about the vessel that blocked the Suez Canal, we were actually responsible for managing the procurement. So that was managed by a company that was a client of our company. So we know the chaos that happened at that moment because the vessel was in Suez Canal, and how we got the things done at that moment for the vessel was a big thing for us. But then yeah, since then I've like transitioned into procurement, completed my master's here at Cranfield, and then in January 24, I joined Northern Marine Group as a category manager. So being a category manager, I'm responsible for managing key category spend of up to 20 million at the moment. And that includes more like both the marine equipments and the services, running strategic sourcing initiatives and driving continuous improvement with our suppliers. One thing that I really like to emphasize is that I really had the technical experience before this, but then I do believe that after completing my master's, I was really able to combine my technical expertise in driving meaningful conversations with the suppliers and developing good procurement strategies for my company. So has been good, has been nice actually, and been a very, very fulfilling journey for me as a whole.
You sound as though you're covering an awfully broad area: procurement, logistics, supply chain. I presume that point, Manu, about curiosity, you would agree with that earlier on? Come here with a curious mind?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been saying that previously as well, is that you really need to know why you're here coming for, and you need to really work in that respect. As, for example, as Hendrik said, that you have 4 electives to choose for. But then I personally reached out to Hendrik, worked with the SAS, and rather than going into 4, I asked them to, so for circular supply chains, as Hendrik, sustainability is something that is pretty close to my heart as well. And unfortunately, I didn't got the circular supply chain module for me as an elective. But then I worked with Hendrik and with SAS, our support team, and actually went into the module without basically having the assessments done, but just to know more about it because I was really interested in it. So it's just all about curiosity and going that extra mile in order to achieve something, because the hard work that you'll put into in this 1 year will pay you dividends for a longer term. So be hungry, be ready to learn. And to be honest, Cranfield does provide you with a pretty good environment for that, because you might think that the course looks nice on paper, but actually the course is like pretty exhausting and pretty demanding. And if you really need to, like, in my opinion, achieve the outputs that you really should be, you have to be on top of it, because things are coming left, right, and center from the professors also, and they are supportive. But at the end, it's you who have to do the legwork. You're here in a master's, right, and not in a bachelor, so things have to be done accordingly. So I mean, to extract maximum out of the course, you have to be on top of the course.
Manu, thank you so much. Is Manu right there? It's hard work. You make people work really hard.
Work. Yes, of course it is hard work. I mean, it's a master's degree, and we pride ourselves that we capture essentially anything related to supply chain management. I mean, as far as that is possible in the university environment. So of course, things are moving quickly, and probably our current students can also reflect on that, because they're just starting, but they see how everything is moving swiftly. Now, yes, it is hard work, but at the same time, I actually think it's a fun environment, right? Like you are part of this great cohort of like-minded people, and that's probably also something that our students can tell us more about, because I think it's one of the key building blocks of our MSc is, on one side, what we do in terms of teaching, module design, the professors, of course, the material, the theories that we cover. But on the other side is that you are part, as a student, that you're part of this cohort of other students from all around the world who share similar interests, right? They're all here to learn about supply chain management. So just being able to be in this environment. I think it's great. It's fascinating. I mean, probably they can probably tell us more about it.
Ajay, I'm going to come to you on that point. It's a perfect segue there. So tell us about, Ajay, tell us about yourself, if you can. What's your background? Why did you choose Cranfield?
So, beginning with my background, I was an operations engineer before I came here. And prior to that, I graduated as a mechanical engineer from Pune, that is India, of course. And during my time working as an operations engineer in a tool making company, that was my exposure towards the idea of supply chain, because we used to export most of our products to companies in Europe and America. That was my little exposure in the sense of how work orders work, the amount of time it takes to get it delivered across nations. And that is exactly where Cranfield stood out for me as a perfect segue, because in a world that demands or that calls for being on your heels and being proactive, the sort of resources that we have here in Cranfield, be it in terms of the curriculum or be it the career stream, it's the perfect spot you want to be in to apply yourself at every possible facet that is available at your hands.
It sounds like you're kept very busy, Ajay. It sounds like you have very little time. So is a typical day you're starting lectures at 9 and you're working into the evening? What's a typical day like?
So let me break it down for you. Of course, with inculcating insights from Manu, and as Professor Hendrik suggested, I would put it this way, as it's, of course, you've got to be hungry, but it's more like food for brain, thought-provoking stuff. And you've got people from different walks of life you cannot even imagine, in terms of be it your professors, be it the learning teams that you are assigned into, or even be it the library resources. And you've got help at every single step, be it with your modules, be it with your soft skills, be it managing your time. So there's assistance and every single thing that you can imagine for all your doubts. All you have to do is, I think this is the thing that I realized, be a sponge. Be a sponge in terms of absorbing every single thing that you have over here.
We like
That is pretty much it. And embrace working into teams, because you've got people from different walks of life. As in, one, it is a global environment. You've got multicultural people. Two, you've got people coming from different industries. As Professor Hendrik suggested, this course is for people who are engineers, who are coming from a business background, who are even coming from a recruitment background. If supply chain and specifically logistics and procurement are something you are interested in, if there's a link, there's a lot that you can pick up from. It's just that you have to be a sponge and apply yourself. That is pretty much it.
That's amazing to hear you say that. That's just, I think there's a perfect student. You should give,
Yeah.
give Ajay top marks there. Prajwal, can I come to you next? Because I want to hear your take on what it's like being a student. You're a current student. Say something about where you come from, where you're going, if you can.
Yeah, so I am from India itself. So I have done my engineering in India. I have done industrial engineering, and also I have worked for Honda motorcycle and scooters for a year as a procurement intern. It was a experience there in Honda where I've learned so much of procurement, and I was also interested to learn more about procurement, and that is how I ended up taking part in Cranfield University. It's a very interesting subject to learn about, and we have so much of practical knowledge in here at Cranfield. Recently, we had a in-hand experience of JIT, which is just in time. So we have this practical knowledge also going on. Coming to the modules and the lecturers, it's just perfectly presented. And as Hendrik told us that we are introduced early to the supply chain strategy and sustainability. We learn a lot of recent case studies in that subject, and also there are a lot of strategies where we need to imply in coming days. So if you're going for this course, it's the perfect thing to study at the Cranfield. I would that's
Yes,
what I want to say. Yeah.
I think I would follow up Prajwal's insights in a way, as in we are kept busy, of course, but we are kept busy with simulation games, poster sessions, uh, guidance on what to choose as your electives, and not just that, but we are also kept busy in terms of real life problem solving case studies so as to prepare us better when we step into industries as future supply chain managers or associates. That's pretty much it. So it's fun.
It's fun. I'm glad you said that, Ajay, because it was beginning to sound like an awful lot of work. You're saying it is an awful lot of work.
It is a lot of work, of course. It's designed to be
But it's
a lot of
fun.
work, but it's fun at the same time, and it's I like the sponge
Yeah, I love that. I
idea.
love that.
I mean, of course, if you are looking at this, at all this information from that angle, right? Like it's food for your brain. You're learning more. Then it becomes fun. If you're looking at it as, well, it's just a lot of work to do. Well, of course. I mean, there's reading, there's preparation, there are all these events that that AJ was just mentioning. And I want to say to the students, or hopefully students to come, we have several posts on LinkedIn about these events as well. So we mentioned the poster session, for example. We mentioned the just-in-time simulation. So have a look at our LinkedIn posts from Cranfield University, and you shall see some of those examples. And of course, also you can check out our dedicated module websites to check out on some of those events, because I think they're really worthwhile seeing some of the impressions.
I would say so.
Yes.
And I think you saw earlier on an open day mentioned, so please get yourselves to the open day too and ask us questions now. Prajwal, we didn't really finish as to where are you headed? Are you headed back into Honda, back into operations engineering and procurement? Where are you going to go?
So after completing my course here, I might jump into procurement as a specialist itself. I'm not sure where I'll be ending up, but I'm 100% sure that we'll be ending up with a good industry itself inside the UK. Yeah.
We're going to follow your career with tremendous interest. Dr. Ajay, if I can come back to you, because there's been talk already about electives. I'm assuming there are course projects that students are involved in, industry facing. Tell us more about that aspect of the course.
Okay, projects are especially the part of the MSc thesis. So let me slightly brief about it, how it works. Like once you finish your second term, that is in April, so students have the opportunity to do their MSc thesis. So that thesis part is divided into two parts. That the first part is of course the company project, and the second part is like systematic literature review. So it's up to the student which thesis type they have to choose. But to choose the project part, like they have to submit their CV, and there are multiple companies. For example, last year we had 70 company projects, and we had companies from very different sector. For example, we have companies from FMCG sector, we have companies from motor industry, rail companies, manufacturing. There are many manufacturers are also there. And these companies bring up with their own problems. So it is an opportunity for the student directly to work with the industry partners. So students have to design their thesis based on the problems the company have submitted to us. And then they will be working on that project for almost for a 4 month. So these projects are totally dedicated to the company's own problem. And within that 4 problems, student has to give a tentative solution to what problems that company have submitted. During this process, students are supervised by our all faculty members. So students have to continuously interact with the different departments of the company. So they might be visiting the company in some occasions. There are certain occasions where they have to take the interviews of different stakeholders in the company, or sometimes they have to go and work on the inside the company premises and try to understand the scenario and get the data from there. So it's like a different varieties of the situation where student can go and actually work on that part. And end of their project, which is most of the time in the last week of August or first week of September. So the student have to submit their thesis, and that is considered as the project, company project thesis, and then the student will be marked based on what they have submitted. So this is how the whole structure worked for the 4 month from start of the April to end of August.
That sounds fascinating. If anyone's got any questions around what Ajay just mentioned there, please send them to us. Raween has a question, and I'm going to start with you, if I can, with Raween's question. Who's interested in data analytics? Is that one of the core modules? And can you, if it is, can you explain about what the approach to data analytics is?
Yes, we actually have a whole core module on analytical.
Core module, not
It's a
elective.
core module,
Right.
exactly. So everybody has to take this.
Right.
Now this is the module leader for this is Professor Emel Akhtas. Now she is a professor in data analytics, and this is very much her.
She
you know,
loves it.
She
I've worked with her.
yeah. So
A little bit scary.
I think some
actually.
a little well, of course. You know, some of our current students can probably reflect on that, or Manu as well. But I mean, she's very passionate about it, and well, essentially briefs you on all the foundation with regard to analytical techniques. But that's not the only one. We also have an elective module, for example, on big data analytics. So the electives, you kind of have to see them as they're shorter, but they're very much sort of a deep dive into one particular area.
So they help you understand whether you're interested in that area, and then you can go
so
deeper.
it's kind of like a quick, if you will, on one side is a quick hit, like you actually get to know something quite quickly, and it is somewhat in depth, but of course you can never cover anything in all its entirety. So then you would know where to go next, right? So for example, the big data elective big data analytics, you would know what it's all about, you would know the foundational techniques. But if you then want to go even further, then of course there are readings, there are other resources to explore.
Someone's saying they've done that. Someone's done that core analytics module? Tell us more. Was that Manu? Was that you?
But Toby, I just want to add on that core and elective modules. If I have to put it very simply, that core modules are generalized, but the elective modules are like a specialization within the specialization. So we already had the discussion about the sustainability. So for example, if the students are very much interested in that particular area, they can take the modules, elective modules that are very much aligned with the sustainability. If students are very much aligned with the analytical techniques, then they can take the elective modules accordingly.
I want someone to talk more about Raween's question there. Prajwal or Ajay, have you done that core?
Yes, I think we've got again in answering to this question and the previous question as well, we have supply chain strategy and sustainability going on right now, as well as analytical techniques, ATS, led by Professor Emel. So I would pretty much agree with what Professor Hendrik and Professor Ajay suggested. And I would also like to add, since I'm a student as well, and I know a lot of students are hearing this, you can not go wrong or right with your elective choices. There's no wrong or right choice. It's just out there. If it is something that you're interested in, go for it. And as I think even Manu suggested, that if you have your 4 electives opted in already and you're still interested in other subjects, we are definitely given an option that you can attend those as well, provided you can manage your time. And it's just that you won't be assessed for it. So again, it's pretty much how curious you are and how you choose to inculcate those within your skill set and learnings.
There's that word again, curiosity. Manu, can I come to you? Which electives did you study?
I can remember 3 at the moment, actually. So I took big data analytics, I took humanitarian logistics, and I think I took sales and operations. Wow. But then I did a couple of them being not enrolled, like circular supply chains. And I was one very interested, I think was network planning by Nikki, Professor Nikki. So I was really, really interested in learning about it, because I do think that simulation and digital twins is something that really coming up. So I was really interested in getting up in that. So, I mean, as everyone has said, the electives is basically a deep dive into a specific core, like a specific, how should I say, a module. I mean, it's a module within module where you're actually focusing on one stuff, but it's pretty still detailed. And again, the professors are there to help you. And if you have any problems, any questions or something, or if you're interested, so suppose again, the elective modules are again detailed but still high level as compared to the core modules, because yes, the core modules are core modules and the number of lectures also vary. But then if you're very curious and you want to learn about a certain part that when they were teaching, so suppose I was really interested about learning in Python, so I went out to the professors and actually asked them how can I learn about Python more. So they basically help me. They provide me with resources. They provide me with access to certain portals where I can practice and learn more about Python. So I mean, it's again, as everyone has said, you have to be curious, have to be hungry, and just enjoy the journey and be ready to absorb stuff, be ready to work hard, and work in collaboration with everyone. And yeah, it will be a fun ride, and you won't even know how the first year, like 1 year of masters, have just went by, because I remember my time, the first 6 months before the thesis, they just flew. And then during thesis time, because I had a company thesis as well, so that time also flew, and it was already time for submission of the thesis. So I mean, so yeah, will be fun, will be quick. Just enjoy the ride.
Wow, Prajwal, do you believe that? It sounds like
Yeah.
looked like you were smiling there.
Completely, I believe in that because time flies. It's been 2 months we come here, so I don't even know how these 2 months have been. And coming to this data analytics, most of the people also ask that do we need Python knowledge to get into data analytics? If you have a hands-on Python, it's a very good, but it's not necessary to have an idea of Python. You can just come here and grab the idea of Python, learn. There are modules, there are learning outcomes also, and there are some learning books you can just borrow it from library. So there are a lot of opportunities here for you to learn about Python and also about data analytics. So it's not necessary to know about Python before coming here. That's what I just wanted to say.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to follow on from that
The
point.
thing about
Go ahead.
the thing about ATS is, as I suggested, we had the JIT, the poster session. We had another interactive module involving a burrito game. We were literally playing a game in that particular session because the learning there was the game was involved around linear programming model for real-time businesses, where we had to like play a game to optimize the revenue for a burrito food truck. So ATS is another favorite module for me because it is designed in a way that you can really pick out stuff quite easily and you've got resources at hand. And what I mean by that is not just a book, but you've got various sites for practicing different mathematical models and concepts. So I just wanted to add that detail.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm going to follow on from that, Henrik. A question for you, and this is from Xu Meng. The guys have talked about a little bit of knowledge mightn't be a bad thing. Xu Meng's asking, what prerequisite courses would you recommend for applicants from various academic backgrounds, maybe not from a supply chain background? How do you prepare yourself?
Yes, I mean, I get this question quite frequently, right? So, but as already AJ and Prajwal and Manu have said, so we basically cover everything here. So there is not like one set of preparation.
You don't need to read thousands of books.
Well, you can. I mean, I'm not going to say there is no merit in reading all the operations and supply chain management book, especially if they were published at Cranfield, of course, or from Cranfield colleague like mine. You know, of course, buy the book and read it, absolutely. But that's not necessarily a prerequisite to your studies here, because we basically start from the basics and then build our knowledge. I mean, the whole program is designed in that way that we start with the foundational core modules. And then, of course, as the later modules, as we start those, and then the elective modules, and then the thesis, by that time, you already know all these foundations, right? So we won't cover those anymore, so that we can then go in depth immediately into a particular topic area. However, in terms of preparation, what I would actually suggest is, because we like to have in-class discussions about current challenges, current problems, how those are affecting supply chain, different industries, different sectors. And of course, we like to learn about country-specific or sort of national contexts or regional contexts. So if you could prepare yourself, sorry, what was his or her name?
Xu Meng.
Xu Meng, and everyone else, like what I would suggest is prepare yourself by reading up what's actually happening in practice. You know, you can
In the world.
in
right
the
now.
in the world, what is actually being discussed in the world of supply chain management, how is it affecting companies, everything from like the big, let's say the large manufacturing or service related companies, all the way towards their supply chain, and then also the small and medium sized companies that are all connected within the supply chains, that we are talking about here. So that's what I would suggest. There's a lot of resources out there, you know, from consulting companies, from logistics companies, where we can just read up on these current events.
I think the message there is get yourself to Cranfield because we're going to look after you. Can we talk about brass tax stuff? Things like payment for courses. Can you tell us more about scholarships?
Yes.
People are wondering, how do I pay for all of this? And I know you've got one slide at least that talks about that.
Yes, I'm sure there's several questions around.
There aren't at the moment, but I'm going to put it, I'm just going to say, as people are interested generally about scholarships, how do you
Yes.
pay for that? Tell us what these are.
So, first of all, I would say go on our website. So when you go into the application details, it's all online now with regard to actually what, of course, the fees are. You can get in touch with our application admissions team, and they can tell you all about the details with regard to these scholarships as well. But they're all spelled out on the website. But in a nutshell, it's like this. We have for any applicant merit-based scholarships. So as it says here, up to 20% of the fees may be covered by this merit-based scholarship. So merit, we are looking at your previous qualification. So for example, if you have a UK first class degree or equivalent, so it doesn't need to be from the UK, but an equivalent degree, then you are very likely eligible for a merit-based scholarship. Okay, same with like a second class degree. It's all looked at an individual basis, of course, but we will then apply those bands in direct from admissions essentially. So they will be able to tell you, yes, you receive whatever this much as a discount based on your previous qualifications.
Brilliant.
Then we also have scholarships for certain areas. For example, all our students from Taiwan are very lucky at the moment, or because we are very interested in working with this region. So the school or the university has decided to actually give special scholarship for students applying from Taiwan. Again, this is something that is spelled out on the website, but this is not the only country. So this is just one of the many countries. We also have specific scholarships for students applying from India, applying from China, applying from different African backgrounds, the Middle East. So basically, I think we cover pretty much everything. Also, we should not forget our UK students, because we also have a half fee scholarship for UK students specifically. And lastly, we also there's more, and we also work with the Global Clinical Supplies Group, and they are offering a bursary through them, which would be on top of the merit-based scholarship. So it's only one person each year that is selected by the Global Clinical Supplies Group, and they are offering the bursary plus a thesis topic plus attendance of a European conference.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Vika's asking, are there any fully funded scholarships?
There are not fully funded scholarships. There are, however, there are some scholarships through the School of Management, so they're not program based. They are School of Management, and those can be quite nice sums actually. Like you can see some of the Cranfield regional scholarships up to 15,000. So those is almost like a half fee scholarship then.
Brilliant. And Jess, thank you, Jess, for putting that into the chat. Follow the link that Jess has put into the chat for more information on that. It goes without saying, if anything on the website doesn't make any sense or you want more information, please get in touch. And again, if you've reached this far in the recording and you want to carry on the conversation, please get in touch. I think you know how to do that. Prashwal, if I can, and Ajay, I'm curious about your funding relationships, how you got to Cranfield, Prajwal, what were the funding options for you? Are you self-funded or did you find a scholarship?
No, I am actually I got early application discount, which after that I'm self-funded. But there are multiple options you can apply for scholarship. So if you apply early, you'll be getting an initial early application discount as well. So yes, do you have an option for scholarships? But I am self-funded
Thank
as
you.
of
And Ajay, are you self-funded as well?
Yes, I've had a similar experience as Prajwal, but I would like to say that I did apply to a lot of scholarships. And apart from the early bird discount, if you're a domestic or an international student, based on your demographic, there are various scholarships. I think there's Chevening, there's Smart Student, and of course the supply chain scholarship that Hendrik mentioned about. That is one of the most decorated ones. I think it was my friend Stephen who was elected for it. But there are tons of options, even if you're not self-funded. I think Cranfield has a tie-up with a site called Easy Transfer. And there are a lot of options in terms of scholarship as well as payments if you decide on coming to Cranfield.
Thank you. We've only got a few minutes remaining, but Manu, if I can come to you, tell us briefly about accommodation. When you came here, I presume you stayed on campus. How easy was that to organize?
So actually pretty easy. And what I would really recommend is that as soon as you make your application to Cranfield, just have a brief overlook of the website, because the website tells you a great story about all the accommodation. So I lived in Stringfellow Hall, which is like one of the newest, basically newest accommodation. You have one more, which is Paronus, but I lived in Stringfellow Hall. So what I did that as soon as I applied for my application with Cranfield, I at the same time applied for my accommodation, because the on-campus accommodation is pretty competitive and gets filled out pretty quickly. So my suggestion would be you fill your application for the student accommodation, and they're pretty flexible as well. So if you suppose just 1 month before you're due to come in here, you basically select not to pursue with the accommodation, or your application doesn't get selected, you will be paid back your deposit fees. So I mean, the accommodation is pretty flexible. So my suggestion would be for at least the starting of your course, try to stay at campus, because there's a lot of going on and you don't want to be missing in action. So my suggestion would be yes, try to live within Cranfield, and then maybe when you're well versed and you know the locality, you know the situations and how to deal with them, then if at a later stage, if you would wish, like, you can move out. But I stayed my whole 12 months in the student accommodation, because A, it was really easy. B, I had the fooding options here as well, so I didn't have to cook. So I mean, while managing the course, fooding was something that one thing I had to take care less. And you have a couple of options as well for fooding. You have like 2 or 3 restaurants. You have a Costa you have 2 Costas within the campus. So I mean, it's pretty nice actually. So yeah, I would suggest that highly.
Manu, thank you. And Prajwal, if I can come to you in 10 seconds. Outside of study, you join societies. What do you do here on campus?
Yes, actually, I'm a part of CSA now. CSA is Cranfield Student Association, where I'm a DJ, actually.
Oh.
Yes, and also I'm into tennis, so I have joined this tennis club also, where I'm taking care of coaching less number of people now, because I've played nationals as a tennis player.
Wow.
So yes, there are multiple opportunities here. Again, coming to Cranfield, it's a vast university. It's a very huge. You find so many sports here, so many extracurricular activities. You have, if you're coming from India or any other part of country, you have separate clubs for them. So you'll be meeting a lot of people. It's very diverse. And also Ajay also has a many experience here, because we both met last week, and we found out that there's a lot of parties going on in the Cranfield campus. So it's actually very fun apart from studying only.
It sounds
It's good.
It sounds fun. Sadly, we have run out of time, guys. We can talk about food. We want to talk about how do you produce food, but hey, we can't do that. Please get in touch with any of the people that you see on the screen here. Dr. Ajay, thank you very much indeed. Manu, good luck with the rest of your career. We want to find out what you do and where you go. Ajay and Prajwal, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy studies.
I would just like to end this with saying, I think it was one of our colleagues on the introductory day. Coming to Cranfield, it's truly a temple of supply chain. So if you're someone who are shortlisting this, do come here. We're waiting for you. Like
Wow.
there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do, and it's a lot of fun, as you can see from our experiences as well.
That's
But it's
amazing for you to
definitely a
say
temple
that.
of supply chain.
It's a
Yeah.
temple of supply chain. It's thank you. If we're a temple of supply chain, what does that make you? That means you're some sort of high priest.
I'm not gonna give myself any further names in that regard, but
I love it.
it's a good term that he came up with, and yeah, AJ was referring, if you're thinking about it, coming to Cranfield, I would just like to say, I know, of course, there are a lot of options out there in the world. Cranfield is just one of them, but we are very proud of our program. I think we deliver excellent supply chain knowledge here at Cranfield, and it would be great to see you for next year.
We can't wait to meet you. So please get yourselves here. We are done for the day. I can't believe it was that quick. The studio production today was Marco Gomez and Robin Hackett. The producer was Tammy Argent-Peters. My name is Toby Thompson. Thank you for watching.